Yeah, Tython. Now that was the one that, of course, they mentioned in episode 5, and it's where I presume they are in episode 6, where
Yes.
I almost said Baby Yoda again. Grogu actually has to sit on the little seer stone or whatever and try to call a Jedi to him to train him. But the
Yes. Make sure you
interesting
get up
thing
in those 12
about
minutes.
yes, the the interesting thing about Tython though is that they brought this. This is kind of a I kind of had its origins in Legends. I believe like the Darth Bane novels, if I'm not
Yep.
mistaken.
The rule of two.
Yeah. And then it found its way into some of the video games. I know it was in Old Republic. I don't remember if it was in Knights of the Old Republic or not. But it's interesting to me that they're bringing this conceptually into the new canon because it was once originally it was supposed to be kind of like what Octo became.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was like supposed to be like the first Jedi temple or whatever, and it was kind of like where when the Jedi were called the Jedi, or they basically, I mean, there's like all this backstory to it, which is really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to kind of, to take in. So that's why, um, we posted links to some of this stuff. But allegedly, this is also where, the Bendu come from as well.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I caught that too when I was reviewing a lot of this stuff because there was a lot of stuff I'd forgotten about. You know,
mhm.
I mean, long story short, the Sith and the Jedi used to they had slightly different names, but they were kind of like seeking out balance of the Force and all this stuff. And then at some point, they started going off in these different factions, and there's a couple of moons of this thing that are
Mhm.
one's kind of light, one's kind of dark, and I'm going a little bit by memory here, but essentially they ended up splitting off into the factions that eventually became the Jedi and the Sith.
Mhm.
And you know, they were no longer about trying to find the because when they were more or less together, there were two different groups, but they were basically trying to find out about everything about the Force. They wanted to learn both the light and the dark and kind of stay in balance. And then they started getting a little bit more dogmatic about it, and then that's when they broke off. But you have all this backstory, which of course, like I said, they put in. You know, they had in a couple Legends books, and they talked about it in. Pretty sure it was the Old Republic, but now they're bringing it into new canon. And so the question becomes when we say, what's the deal with Tython? Why are they bringing this in to the new canon? Is what I find interesting.
Well, in my mind, I think that this is going to serve as I think this is not the only time we're going to see Tython. I think this is going to I think what Mandalorian is doing is introducing a lot of different things. I think this is the conduit to a lot of different channels that we're going to see in other spinoff shows. So I think, especially in the Ahsoka series, I can definitely see
Mm-hmm.
Tython coming back. I can see if they decide to do something with Luke Skywalker, down the line in this time period, I can see them coming back here because this is a good origin point for a lot of different. And it's a great place to explore, especially if you're trying to start a Jedi temple, if you're looking for artifacts, if you're looking for various holocrons or whatever the case may be, or you're just trying to communicate with some things. Um, like even with Baby Yoda or Grogu, being on the Seeing Stone, okay, perhaps you know that transmits a communication to Luke, and then maybe Luke kind of discovers Tython that way. He's like, oh, well, this place is rich with the Force, and maybe I should explore this place even more. Um, so I could see this being like um, a place that they can definitely mine as far as other places. This might pop up, and it's funny. Ronaldo just said this. They're going to use it in the High Republic and maybe some upcoming movies, and that's totally what I was thinking too. That this is kind of like the introduction to it, so we might see this place again in various times. So we might see it, in its glory days, like the High Republic, and then we could also see it post Return of the Jedi situations, as well as Luke is trying to rebuild the Jedi Order.
Yeah, I could completely see this being more of a launching point for this place versus like, okay, we're bringing this in and the story is going to be very contained within this one series. Especially
Hmm.
given that we're seeing this the week after that we see the introduction of Ahsoka. Much like they're bringing in these characters, I think, to launch off into other series. And The Mandalorian is definitely a launching pad for some of this stuff. I think it could also be a launching pad for various destinations because think about it. The Mandalorian is planet hopping basically.
Every
Now,
episode.
every episode. Every episode. And the thing that I think is interesting too is that that's the direction when on the last segment, when we accidentally had I don't even know why this happened. Sometimes the stuff doesn't transfer right, but we saw briefly the graphic from the new female led series that's supposed to be coming out. From Leslie, can't remember her
Oh
name
yeah,
now. Oh,
I know. She has one of those interesting it's last names.
yeah, she does, and that's why and we had the graphic, but basically, it's well, Headland.
Yeah.
That's it. See, here she is, like, and she's talking this new female-led series that's also supposed to be almost like an Indiana Jones meets, Star Wars kind of thing. So, I mean, with that said, I think that when you deal with Tython and you're dealing with things like that, that this is the Mandalorian is basically a launching pad for various destinations as well. And that, okay, Din Djarin might visit, like a Tython or another place during the week for that episode. But then that destination, which is maybe a one-off for the Mandalorian, is now the focal point of a new film, or maybe it pops up in the High Republic, like Ronaldo said, or
Hmm.
maybe it's definitely going to be focused more in a particular series where that would be more appropriate. Certainly, that's the case with Tython. That the Ahsoka series would be way more better served, I should say, rather than focus on in the Mandalorian, because after all, remember, Ahsoka's the one that brought it up.
Hmm.
And obviously, it's kind of like, oh, yeah, just put the kid on the stone or whatever. It's like, well, wait a minute now. And, this must have been a thing. So
That's a
that
great
could
line
be,
from today's episode dealing with the stone from Din Djarin when once he put Baby Yoda on the stone. He was basically trying to figure out like how to activate the thing, and it was just like priceless.
I can imagine. And very soon I won't be able to imagine, which, this is a good time too to give you guys a commercial for the fact that we are going to be doing our review of this Mandalorian episode within a few days. So
On
you'll
Monday, yep.
definitely, we're shooting for Monday at 8. And, hopefully you guys can join us then because the reviews are always fun. I always enjoy our Mandalorian reviews. But Tython, I think, is definitely going to prove to be a more important planet than, okay, this is just a destination of the week for the Mandalorian.
Definitely.
But what about you guys? I mean, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think the Tython is maybe not as important? Maybe it was more of a fan service thing to bring in a familiar destination and have an adventure, because that's certainly possible. If enough people think that it's really cool, and look, we know that Favreau and Filoni are hardcore canon junkies, and they're definitely well versed in the expanded universe, now called Legends. So it could be that they were like, hey, what would be cool? Since we gotta have Grogu sit on the stone anyway, let's put it on Tython. That would trip out a lot of the hardcore fans. I wouldn't put it past them.
Yes.
So it is possible that could be the case. So are you guys leaning that way? Or do you think that, hey, this could actually be, a prime destination that could pop up in a movie or a series and actually be a serious focal point, and they were just introducing it in The Mandalorian. Certainly let us know in the comments section.
Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter @HeadToHeadSW. Submit your questions for our next show. Visit our official website at headtoheadswpodcast.com. Until next time, may the Force be with you, always.